Good morning, good morning, good morning. It is Saturday morning. I am recording. It is 5:30 in the morning on a Saturday. That is when we pull a random, oh, my camera is frozen again. That is when we pull a random object out of the randomogrifier and we draw it. Hang on a second, I gotta figure out what happened to my camera. Why my camera is frozen. Wow, my camera hasn't been frozen all morning. My computer is acting like it doesn't have enough RAM to do anything. I can't even make my mouse function. I'm telling you, the gremlins abound today. The gremlins abound. Got it. Hopefully that takes over. Now, let's go back to what we were doing. Okay, this is it. Sorry for the interruption, folks. This is the time of day when we pull a random object out of the randomogrifier, a toy out of the toy box, and we draw it. We talk about it, we draw it. I'm just going to spritz these watercolors to make sure they're nice and juicy. Seriously, I've been sitting here for 10 minutes. There have been no issues whatsoever, and then all of a sudden we start broadcasting and the camera's frozen. So, I don't know. I don't know what's going on there. But today we have it's labeled a Dracosaurus. The folks over at Safari who make these really cool, realistic nature toys in miniature. They put the name on the back of it in very, very super small print. And this one is called a Dracosaurus. But when I started looking that up, a Dracosaurus is actually something that is in one of those Pokemon type card games. I don't remember which one. It's not the real name of this dinosaur. My dad's giving me guidance. My dad's giving me guidance in the chat room. Be sure and spritz your watercolors. Yes, thank you. I need that kind of guidance. I'll tell you what kind of guidance I needed this morning. I have a checklist on my phone so that I can kind of guide, make sure I'm going through the whole process. And I sat down this morning. I got everything in place and sat down this morning and was trying to go through the checklist, and I realized that I didn't have my phone because I don't have the checklist. If I don't have my phone, I don't have the checklist. And so I had to get back up and go find my phone, especially since I use it to record for the YouTube short. I have to have my phone. So that is exactly the kind of assistance I need, is to remember to do the basic stuff like put my mic away, spritz my watercolors, turn my music on. The other day I drove all the way to work with my microphone on, made it all the way to work with my microphones on. That's why when I dance at the end of the show, we have the routine now of, instead of saying, "I see you dancing," somebody will say, "Take your mic off." I'm just going through the composition part of this right now to make sure that everything I want to fit, everything I want about this is where it goes and will fit on the page. But this has a lot of knobby spikes. We're not going to be too particular about each individual knobby spike, but we want enough of them that we can tell it's this particular model. So the real dinosaur is called a Dracorex, hogwartsia, because it looks like a dragon. And so they gave it a very Hogwarts name, a very modern Hogwarts name. They named it in 2006. It was discovered and named in 2006. And it was found in, what's the name of that place? It was found in, it's in Montana. I mean, I know the name of Montana. I'm trying to think of the name of the dig. Hell's Creek. So named because of all the fossils they find in the area. But it's found in a bed with a whole bunch of other Pachycephalosaurus. And Pachycephalosaurus is another knobby, bony, spiky-headed dinosaur that has a huge dome on the top of its head. And so the position of the bones and the position of the bones and spikes and the area where it was found give the dinosaurs reason to believe that this is related to the Pachycephalosaurus. And there's heated argument among the paleontologists, which I'm not really sure what a heated argument over paleontologists are, but I guarantee you paleontologists will slam their fist down on the table over whether or not this thing had a spleen. It's crazy the way they argue about this stuff, but I mean, everybody's got to have something important to them. This is their life's work. And they argue over this stuff like you would not believe. So there's a huge camp that thinks that this is just a juvenile Pachycephalosaurus based on a description done by Jack Horner. Jack Horner was one of the original advisors on Jurassic Park. And there's a scene in Jurassic Park where the paleontologist character in that movie holds Jack Horner's book, or the kid in that movie holds Jack Horner's book, but it's supposed to be written by the paleontologist in the movie, not Jack Horner. So he is a prominent paleontologist. I told you all that to say that he's a prominent paleontologist, and it is his decision. He is the one who has made the claim this is a juvenile Pachycephalosaurus. And the problem with that is there is no indication of the dome shape that goes on the top of the skull. Hey, there's my mom. There's no indication of the dome shape that goes on the top of the skull of a Pachycephalosaurus. And the fact that there's no indication of it tells most people that it can't be that, because all other animals have the indications of their adult form as juveniles. If you look at rhinoceros, if you look at triceratops, if you look at, Ankylosaurus, the ceratopsians, other Pachycephalosaurus, sheep, goat, cassowaries, crocodiles, modern animals. All of those animals have features, have prominent features like crowns in their skull or ridges down their back, and those prominent features appear in the juvenile form. They don't just show up magically as adults. So there's a whole other group of paleontologists led by Robert Bacher, who is also in Jurassic Park, the second one, that says that this has to be a different species. How am I frozen again? We just fixed this. We just fixed this. So I don't know how we got frozen again, but thanks for calling it out. Where were we? So anyway, Robert Bacher says it has to be a different species because it doesn't show any of the adult indication of a dome. And so he has a huge contingency of followers on that idea. Excuse me. Me being one of them. I don't think this is a Pachycephalosaurus. It could be a Pachycephalosaurus, though. It is entirely possible. Here is the real kicker, and this is kind of Jack Horner's argument. And if I get too scientific for you, just understand I'm a nerd. I have been reading about dinosaurs. When I said I read Jack Horner's book, I read Jack Horner's book in the 7th grade. This is one of the things I have been doing since I could read. But the problem is, and the argument that Jack Horner makes is, there's only one. This is the only fossil of this animal found, the only specimen of this animal found. And that suggests that there's not enough evidence to support the idea that it's a whole brand new species, because there's not enough evidence to support that there's more of them. And that this could just be a juvenile or a one-off is a very real possibility. People have their entire life's work tied up in this. They don't want this to be. Some people don't want it settled, let alone to be wrong. But there's no way to know. You can't test the DNA. Somebody's right, but there's no way to know. You can't test the DNA. It's rock. you can't. The only thing they can do is they can examine the fossils that they have, and the things that did fossilize, like the pores in the bones, suggests that it was a juvenile. So that fits in with what Jack Horner said. These knobby horns and spikes line up with several patterns of known Pachycephalosaurs from the dig. So there's a very real chance that this is just a little dino doing his best, named Timmy. There's a very good chance of that. And what really makes that interesting to me is, from our standpoint, this if this were a one-off, if this were somehow an underdeveloped or damaged in some way, genetically, or not genetically damaged, but if this were somehow a deficient. I don't know what the socially acceptable phrase would be. Stunted growth is what the word retarded means, but you're not allowed to use the word anymore. But if this were a chromosomally challenged dinosaur, from our point of view, this would be the good-looking one. He's more svelte, dragon-looking, with the dome head, without a dome head. So we would think he was the good-looking one. But the other Pachycephalosaurs would be running up behind him and pantsing him, and then running away going, "Timmy," and then laughing. And he'd be like, "Stop it, I'm telling Mom. My name is Timmy." I don't know why I keep saying that. But, "Stop, I'm telling Mom." That's just a very brother and sister thing to do anyway. I only know that because I have more than one kid. I'm an only child. I never lived that. That is not my life experience at all. But Jack Horner saying, well, it has to be this, and so that's settled, irritates me. I'm not a Jack Horner fan. As an adult, having read his books and watched some of his talks are on YouTube now. Having read his books and having watched some of his talks, I'm just not a fan. It seems to me like his ideas are a bit obtuse and closed-minded to discoveries that have been made since the 70s. He tends to be stuck in the He tends to be stuck in the 70s with his ideas, or at least that was my impression. Jack, if you're watching, you're free to call me and talk about this. Or you can talk about me on your podcast and argue about it. We have the whole internet watching, so we can discuss it openly if you'd like. But considering he's probably in his 70s or 80s, I seriously doubt he's concerned about what I have to say. Oh, no, let me just count my money, worry about what some YouTube podcaster is complaining about today. Can't talk, Harding. Do 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 do. You know, I joke about can't talk Harding, but it is really difficult to discuss ideas and make the brush stay fluid around those lines to make sure that I'm not painting, that I'm not coloring outside the lines. Can't talk, Harding. All right. Let's give him a real light coat of brown. I'm going to dry him off. Because we did the underpainting first, the grisaille underpainting first of the shadows, I can just wash the whole thing with one tone of brown, and the undershadows will shine through and change that brown where there's shadows on the model. Like that. I could probably go back with a little more brown, maybe a little more yellow. Maybe a little more orange too. Just have to keep it light. Yeah. That's closer. Then I'm going to go in with some very dark in that like the eye socket right here. And I want to put just a dot there, and I want to let it spread out. Should put a dot there and let it spread out. All right. Now let's dry it, and then we can ink it. He does look ferocious. My mom's in the chat saying he does look ferocious. He really does. You know, when they found him, they had to think, this thing is great. I know this is almost everybody's favorite part, watching the paint dry. I personally can't wait to get out of bed to come watch paint dry. This is, without the most exciting part of my morning. I lay there in bed and I think, man, I just don't really want to get up today. But then I think, well, you know, if you don't get to watch paint dry. Oh, man. And I jump up and roll out of bed, dash down the stairs so I can watch the paint dry. Oh, great. I have a bunch of 30-second shorts I could run. I hope the camera's still switching. I have a bunch of 30-second shorts I could run so that you guys wouldn't have to watch the paint dry, but honestly, I think you kind of like the paint drying as much as I do. And I wouldn't dream of taking that away from you. Thanks, Mom. She says it is switching, so I wouldn't dream of taking away from you the joy of watching the paint dry. See, the kick to this is for every knob on one side, there's a knob on the other side at this point. Can't talk, Harding. But how are we doing on time? It is 5:58. We need to wrap this up. What is today? The 28th of June of 25. I dated a file 26 the other day, anticipating the next year. Today was day 90 of our little daily show here. We're 10 days away from a 100-day celebration. You know what that means? Nothing for 10 days. All right, so let's see how it turned out. From the photo, you can see it's pretty close to the reference photo. It might be a little thin compared to the reference photo. Let's see it from my perspective. Let me disconnect over here. Give me just a second while I undo the microphone and camera so that I can come on. Let's look at it from my perspective. There's a bit of artistic license, but I think there's room for artistic license because those knobs are, well, I guess they are set in stone, but they're not. Anyway, there's my rendition of it. And hopefully some of you have taken the photo reference and are trying to do it also, or giving it a shot also. Try not, do or do not. There is no try. So tomorrow, the little girl has already picked out what we're going to do tomorrow. I'm going to have to own up to the fact that I've already opened it and looked at it. It is me as a zombie. No, it's just a big guy in overalls as a zombie. So maybe we'll talk about the history of overalls tomorrow. But this is what we're drawing tomorrow. If you're tuning in Sunday morning on the 29th and it's before 5:30 in the morning, you're watching the trailer, and this is what we're about to do. Stick around. We're going to knock this out. But if you are here any other time, this is the end of the show where I tell you how much I enjoy doing this and how much I look forward to coming down and arting with my besties in my art accountability practice. And you guys make it fun and exciting. Be sure and tune in tomorrow. Same Artistic Biker time, same Artistic Biker channel. And we dance. We dance until somebody says they see me dancing, and then we can take the microphone off and we can put it all away, and I won't take it back upstairs because it is Saturday. The part of this game today is deciding whether or not I'm even wearing pants, because you had no idea. It is Saturday, and I will go back to bed today.